So if you remember the saga of one five-star offensive tackle, Kayden Proctor, if you understand and follow the saga there, I felt horrible for Iowa football fans. Horrible, because this is what happened. First of all, the state of Iowa does not produce five-star athletes on a regular basis. Maybe 2 to 4 every 10 years, something in that range. Xavier Wampa, the safety a couple years ago, would be the last other five-star. So not a lot of five stars coming out of the state of Iowa. And it being a bit smaller state, very proud state, very football-oriented state. They love their Hawkeyes, but it's not an elite program. Very good program, top 25 program. I would put it in that range. We'll see where my program rankings stack up for Iowa right now. We'll do that in a few weeks. But they love their Hawkeyes. They love their football team. So they got a five-star in Kayden Proctor, who for a long period of time prior to the National Signing Day of 2020, must have been 2023. Yes, National Signing Day of 2023, that he had been committed to the University of Iowa for a long, long time. So they fully anticipated, Iowa fans, that he would be there and signed and ready to roll to lead Iowa football going forward. At least be a premier left tackle going forward. And then on the final day, as happens across the nation, so it's not unheard of, he flipped, changed his commitment, reneged on his commitment, which drives me crazy. Let me be emphatic about this. It drives me crazy when kids flip their commitment. Then it's not a commitment. If there is any high school football player out there listening to me right now, and we're also on audio, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Apple. Yes, if you're listening, you're watching, do not commit unless you are going to, in fact, commit. Do not commit unless you are going to commit. That's what a commitment is. It's not a whim for the day. It is not a lean. It's not a I prefer them today. No, I made a commitment. And I don't know how many of these commitments don't hold. 20%, 30%, whatever the number is. I don't know. I would guess it would be in that range. So for Kayden Proctor, he takes Iowa all the way to National Signing Day, and he flips and signs with Alabama. Fine. That is his right. It's even his right to change his mind and dishonor. We'll use that term because if somebody's honoring their commitment, then they can also dishonor their commitment. He dishonored his commitment, and he turned his back on the state of Iowa, and he signed with Alabama. Again, that is completely his right. However, I wish the young man, like others, would think this through and truly make a commitment. Dabo Swinney gets criticized at times at Clemson for saying, you know what? If you are committing here to Clemson, you are not visiting anywhere else. That seems, in this day and age, it seems stern, harsh, a bit abrupt, a bit authoritarian. But he's basically making the point, get all your visits out of the way, talk to everyone you want to talk to, because once you commit to our football program, you belong to us. You have made a commitment. He actually defines the word correctly. We have taken the word commitment in this football situation, and maybe in other walks of life and other industries as well, but taken the term commitment and we've made it a preference, a lean, that the odds are favoring that side. That's not a commitment. So what made matters worse, far worse, goes off to Alabama. They go to the college football playoff. He plays in the Rose Bowl. Nick Saban retires. Kayden Proctor then goes to the transfer portal, and it was quite obvious that he had already decided, I'm going home. Well, decided, that's another term. he had thoughts about going home. He had thoughts about leaving Bama to go back to Iowa. So, transfer portal, Kayden Proctor declares, I have transferred to the University of Iowa. And all those Iowa fans that were left at the altar just a year earlier were overjoyed. They rolled out the red carpet for him and introduced him at the basketball game, and he got the hero's welcome that he had righted his wrong, and he was coming back to Iowa football. A few weeks later, apparently after going on vacation with some buddies on the Alabama football team, Kayden Proctor decided, no, I'm going to transfer back to the University of Alabama. Iowa commitment, goes to Alabama, transfers to Iowa, goes back to Alabama. Anybody see anything wrong with this? If my son did this, I would slap him around. All right. Again, there's a difference between what you have the right to do and what you should do, or how you should conduct yourself. All right. This article that came out today, and in the words of Kayden Proctor, and it's not just some kind of exclusive article, you can see this information all over the place. Kayden Proctor came out, had a couple words to say about Iowa football and why he went back to Alabama. And as soon as I saw the article, as soon as I saw the headline, so I'm on my phone, I open my phone and I get the political stuff and I get the college football stuff, and I get the entertainment stuff, and I click on whatever I want to click on, and I get teased by this and that. And I see where Kayden Proctor tells us the two words that caused him to leave Iowa. And I immediately knew what those two words were. Immediately. Knowing where he came from, Alabama, and knowing the Iowa football program to a certain extent, I knew those two words instantly. National championship. So I assume the beginning of this article is just going to tell us everything that I just told you. So he was on The Tides That Bind on Fox Nation, the documentary on the 2024 Alabama football season. Quote, Coach Saban left. I started thinking, who's going to be our new coach? What am I going to do? I came here to play for Coach Saban. You know what I'm saying. So I went back to Iowa. He just wanted to be by his family. But then a month and a half into being there, it just didn't feel right. I didn't have no close relationships, and maybe a grammar class, I don't know. I didn't have no close relationships with none of the guys. That's a triple negative. I couldn't relate to none of them. Whoa, he's adding up. I never heard the words national championship come out of their mouths. It just wasn't the place for me. 3 months later, I left. Was it 3 months? And that's the end of the article. So it got me to thinking, what schools are playing for national championships? And when I say that, I don't mean necessarily which schools are capable of playing for national championships. There's only about 8. But for example, Kurt Signetti at Indiana. Now, I might be wrong. He's only been there for 1 year, and he talked a lot of crap, and he backed most of it up. Toward the end of the season, leading into the Ohio State game and then into the playoff, he started to go off the rails a little bit too much. He started to get a little bit too full of himself. But Curt Cignetti delivered. And Curt Cignetti, to date, would be coaching a program that has no shot of winning a national championship. Until further notice, no shot. What would Curt Cignetti say that, though? And would Curt Cignetti, does he really believe that? Uh, I get the indication that he believes that he can win a national championship at Indiana. So my question is not solely who's capable of winning a national championship. It's more so who believes they can win a national championship and who is running a football program, not just at the head coaching position, although that's the most important, but as an administration and as a football department and a football program and athletics department is conducting themselves as going for the gold. We don't need to name all the obvious ones. Does Kansas State believe that they can win a national championship? Are they conducting their football program with the intent of winning a national championship? Kenny Dillingham, much like Curt Cignetti, I would put him in that same category of being a guy who, at this point, is coaching a football program that has basically no shot of winning a national championship to date. I'm not saying that can't change, but I get the impression that Kenny Dillingham is gunning for a national championship, believes he can win a national championship, and that's why he's coaching. That's why he's at Arizona State, and he believes he can do it there. Those are the programs I'm looking for. I know Alabama's gunning for national championships. I know Michigan is, and Georgia and Notre Dame, etc. I know that they are. I know that Tennessee believes they can win a national championship, and by all indication, they should be able to win a national championship. Does Arkansas believe, and are they conducting their football program in a way that speaks to winning a national championship? If I throw out the name Stanford, we would all bust a gut. But a little over 10 years ago, 10 years ago, they won the Rose Bowl. Stanford was contending for national championships. Not for long, but for about 5 years. They were a contender for the national championship. Now that's a complete joke. So, Jim, I would like to know why you don't think Arkansas is playing for a national championship. Again, if you're listening to my question, I'm not talking about who can win a national championship. I'm talking about who's leading a program, conducting themselves as though they are gunning for and want to win a national championship. I think that Arkansas does conduct their program like they want to win a national championship. I might be wrong. Okay, again, I'm not asking who can win a national championship. I'm asking who is conducting their. This is a good test case right here from Mike. SMU. At first thought, at least for me, SMU national championship. Are you kidding me? I don't know. Look at how they're conducting themselves. They want to play big time college football so badly that they say, forget the money. We just want to be in the ACC. We just want to be somewhere where we can compete and we've got a path. So keep your money. We'll take care of that. And they went after a really good head coach, assistant, offensive coordinator in Red Lashley. Now he's got things rolling there. They're in Dallas. They probably think with our money and playing in this area, this metropolitan area in this state, we are conducting ourselves gunning for a national championship. So I'm going to pick on Iowa because Iowa's a much better football program than everybody we've named. They're better than Arkansas. They're better than SMU. I don't care that SMU went to the playoff. Iowa's a much better football program right now than SMU. They've accomplished more. They've done more. They played in Big Ten championship games. They have lived in the top 25 for the most part under Kirk Ferentz. But it always struck me as being a strong indication when I've had conversations with Corey Bratta on our Iowa show. Please check it out, Tuesdays at 5:30 Eastern. We have a great time, slice and dice Iowa football, that I have noted to him many times in listening to Kirk Ferentz. And when particular questions are brought to the table concerning, let's say, like rankings, like your offense ranks such and such, your points per game ranks such and such, that the media is thinking nationally and they are presenting national perspective questions to him. And he's solely thinking about like the old school Big Ten, not even the current Big Ten, like playoff and we get in and then we can do some damage. Kind of like this old school Big Ten mentality that if we can go 8-3, and I know that's only 11 games. I said that for a purpose because that's old school, 11 game schedule. We can go 8-3. Maybe we win the Big Ten, a la Hayden Fry a number of times. 8-3, 1981, 8-3, 1990, and Iowa's going to the Rose Bowl. They're getting their heads stomped in, but they're going to the Rose Bowl. And I would like to have the specifics of these questions and responses, but they're dated to a certain extent. So I'm not coming up with these specifics. But I particularly remember him being asked about their winning percentage and if they're winning enough. And he mentioned being fifth or sixth. We're fifth or sixth in winning percentage. That was his response. Fifth or sixth in winning percentage. Well, my first thought was, you're not fifth or sixth in winning percentage. He said something like, we're fifth or sixth in winning percentage in the last 10 years. And I went, what? Then I thought, oh, he means in the Big Ten. Fifth or sixth in winning percentage. It doesn't surprise me that Kayden Proctor would be part of the Iowa football program for 3 months and not hear the words national championship. Now, that doesn't mean that every program should be out there talking about a national championship every day at workouts. That would be a complete joke if you're at Houston right now or Cincinnati, or you're at Vanderbilt, and maybe Clark Lee. Knowing Clark Lee, I would not be surprised if he doesn't mention a national championship. But there's a fine line between talking big, making big goals, presenting big aspirations and challenges to your team, and then also putting in the work. Okay, forget what we just talked about for 10 minutes and psyched everybody up about talking about national championships. Now we got to get to work. Now we got to lift weights, watch film, run, puke our guts out, get in the right 3-point stance, do all the things that we need to do that make each one of you a better player today than you were yesterday. 1% better. And if you just live in the clouds, if your heads are in the clouds all the time and you're just talking about national championships, obviously you're not going to accomplish that. So there's a balance, but it does not surprise me that Kayden Proctor would be in the Iowa football program for 3 months and not hear the words national championship. I got to think that, and this is somebody much older than Kayden Proctor assessing the situation, that he should have known that before he got there. D-Rock Irish, I don't believe you might be correct there. I think you're thinking of Brian Ferentz's contract. So 2 or 3 years ago, when that ridiculous bonus structure was added to Brian Ferentz's contract as offensive coordinator, one stipulation was averaging 25 points per game. The other one was if we win 7 games, then another bonus kicks in. That was for Brian Ferentz. Maybe it is for Kirk as well. He's meeting that bonus every year, if it is. And even Brian did, even though the offense was pathetic beyond belief. Pathetic's not even the right word. I use that word quite a bit because it applies in other circumstances, but pathetic a million times over. And even Brian Ferentz was receiving his bonuses because they would win 7 games. But for Kirk Ferentz, I don't know. It's been forever since he did not win 7 games in a full season. We're talking about, I believe, 2016. That's a ridiculous. If that is in his contract, that's pathetic. You should be able to win 7 games at Iowa in your sleep. They basically win 3 games out of conference. So they win 2 cream puffs and they beat Iowa State 80% of the time. So that's 3 wins anyway. All you have to do is go 4-5 in the Big Ten. And even with that, the Brian Ferentz contract stipulation was 7 games total, meaning they could be 6-6 and go to a bowl game and win and go 7-6. So my question to all of you, and thank you for dropping that, Jackson, is who really wants to win a national championship? Aaron says Illinois wants to be. So this is an interesting case right here. This is another interesting school that we bring into the mix. And again, I'm not saying who can win because it doesn't appear as though Maryland has any shot to win a national championship. But my concern right now, because of what was stated or was not stated by Iowa football when Kayden Proctor was in the building, curious, we only have indications. We don't know. None of us know, but we can take educated guesses at who is really conducting themselves because of the administration and because of the football coach in play. Now, I would hope that every football coach in America, even if they know reality, they know what they see on the field, they know what they have versus their competition, but that they are still driving and still have that burning desire and believe, I am here to win a national championship. I am here to win every game. When I was covering Mississippi State, so as a sports director in Mississippi State was one of the teams we covered. I'd go to Jackie Sherrill's news conference every week, and every so often he would mention this. It's our goal to win every month. What does that mean? Well, to him, that meant to have a winning record every month. It was his goal to have a winning record every month. And I would sit there and think, okay, you play 4 games a month. So you want to go 3-1 every month. And maybe one of those months you play 5 games. That happens, twice a year, 4 times a year. There are 5 weeks in a month. So September, October, November, December, and this is when there were 11 games in a season. And you're looking at like 3-1, 3-1, 3-1. No, September, October, November. Okay. You're looking at like 3-1, 3-1, 3-2. What is that? 6-2 doesn't come out quite right. 9-4. So anyway, it's basically 7-4, 8-3. And I would think, and they had buys and so forth. But anyway, it's right around 8-3. And I would think, this is your goal? Your goal is to go 8-3. This is what you're telling us. Have you ever really thought this through. And if that's the case, that's fine. I would think with a lot of these universities that there is a disconnect between administration and football coach. That for the administration, they are there to educate people, meaning not to educate them on how to block a rush end or how to run a pass pattern, but educate them for everyday society. That's why they're there. The football business probably just kind of gets in their way. They're just probably annoyed by it, but they can't ignore it because it's too important. It's what the university is largely known for, and it brings in a lot of money. And if it's not bringing in a lot of money, then it's a problem, and it should be bringing in money. So I would think for a lot of administrators, they would be in that bucket of, let's just have a football program that's not embarrassing to us, that gets the bowl games to make extra money, and where we're good enough, 8-4, 7-5, we are good enough to generally fill the stadium and make as much money as possible. And we certainly enjoy those media rights checks. So I would think a lot of administrators who see football, and I get it, I understand their viewpoint, see football and athletics as kind of a nuisance, because that's not why the university was built. Why they would say, let's just be respectable. I don't care about winning national championships. I just want to be in the black. Just want to be in the black so we can make money. But Maryland's an interesting one right there. As Michael says, Maryland has high-paying boosters from big names, and Maryland has a lot of NIL money like Ohio State and Michigan. Again, Mike bringing up SMU. Small Time Republic says Arizona State probably has a better shot than Indiana. Well, they're going to make less money, but from what I understand, Arizona high school football is getting better and better all the time. It is vastly improved. David believes more teams can win the Natty now. I generally agree with that. Well, we've got an open field of 12 teams. It's going to be 16 rather quickly. So while I don't see the Arizona States of the world being able to put on a run like Ohio State did this past year, they certainly have the opportunity now where they did not before. Just look at, I ran through, on yesterday's show, I ran through 2014 through 2024 and what the playoff would look like in each of those seasons with those Big Ten and SEC requirements. So we've done that in the past, but we didn't have those requirements, and that changes things. That changes a couple spots each year. And Northwestern shows up in the playoffs 3 times. That's pretty funny. And Wake Forest and Virginia show up in the playoff. But to win 4 games, that is a whole other deal. It almost becomes easier to make the playoff than it does to win once you're in. As Jim says right there, and we addressed the Stanford situation a few minutes ago to a certain extent, if Stanford was all in, I think they have more money than most schools. Jim, you would be right. I believe Stanford has more money than any school outside the Ivy League. I don't think football is among their priorities, though. So, yeah, when you see those academic endowments, I don't know what the answer to that is in regards to whether that money can be mixed, whether there can be a decision made. We've got an athletic endowment that is, in Stanford's case, I believe it's like $15 billion. And then we can take 500 million. Football, still have 14.5 billion here. I don't know the answer to that question. I doubt if those lines are crossed often. So again, Kayden Proctor makes the comment, I left Iowa because I never heard national championship mentioned. So again, my thought is, who is not just capable of winning a national championship? I just want to know who truly goes to work every day as both administration, athletic department, AD, and football staff and coach, thinking we're all in to win a national championship. And outside all the obvious ones, Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State, Kurt Signetti at Indiana. I've never heard, now I'm not listening to every week, listen to Brett Bielema's news conference at Illinois. And I've got a ton of respect for Brett Bielema. I think he's excellent at what he does. I don't know that he's talking about winning national championships at Illinois. I would think that Jonathan Smith may utter that word or those words at Michigan State. I bet Luke Fickell has said that at Wisconsin. Look at the money that Texas Tech is shelling out this offseason to get better, to compete. They see what Arizona State's done. They see that the Big 12 is wide open. They don't want to be left behind. They are gunning for and see that opportunity in the Big 12.